Welcome to this new episode of Happy Habits with Selin. I'm super excited about this one because this is about perfectionism, and perfectionism or perfectionist tendencies is something I have worked on myself so much, and it has had such a positive impact on my life to look at my perfectionist tendencies and to let them go, to set different standards and to choose happiness over perfection. So I'm really excited to share some of my insights with you. We're going to look at what is perfectionist tendencies and how can you find out if you have those? And then how can you start working with these? And I'm going to share 3 steps with you that will help you to get on your journey from perfection to compassion. Let's dive into perfectionist tendencies. I like to say perfectionist tendencies because if you label yourself as I am a perfectionist, it seems like it's part of your identity and it's not changeable. So I like to call it perfectionist tendencies because those are learned habits, and that means that you can unlearn them and learn something that might serve you more. So how do you know that you have unhealthy perfectionist tendencies? So let's go through a little scenario or some points. So if you find yourself in this, then probably it might be that you have some perfectionist tendencies. So you're setting very high standards for yourself and you're always trying to prove something, that you can do it and that you are someone. And yet it is never quite enough for you. Those standards always go higher as soon as you might have reached those standards. You might also give up when you find out that you can't win or that it's not good enough, and then you play it down and say, oh, in fact, it wasn't that important to me. You might start doing something excessively at the beginning when you decide to start something, but when you can't stick to your plan, you stop. And then you say, oh, anyways, I didn't want to do it, or maybe you change it, you set a new standard. You often might view mistakes as failures, as something that should have been different, that you should never do again. And you, above all, don't want the outside world to see those imperfections, that you judge yourself as imperfection. So you're wearing kind of a mask of perfection. And there's only certain things that you want to display to the outside world. If somebody praises or compliments you, it's very hard for you to accept it, and you play your achievements down, saying that in fact it wasn't that big of a deal, or that something else helped you, or whatever it is in that case in your life. You might also view then on the other side, view criticism and feedback as more of a personal attack. And it might also be that you procrastinate because you're waiting for the perfect moment to be ready. So you might be thinking, oh, after I have this certificate, or after I have my kind of method, and that is something I am working on at the moment. It's often compared or combined with this famous imposter syndrome. You also tend to compare yourself often, and you compete with others around you in your head. And you also care what others think and what they might think as you do something, if they might judge you. And all of this brings quite a bit amount of stress and anxiety into your life if you get into this cycle a lot. You also might find it difficult to delegate tasks to others because you don't know if they will do it good enough. And you're very critical of your own work, but also of the work of others. So those are some points that might ring true or not for you if you have unhealthy perfectionist habits or tendencies. And I have a handout that you can download where this is all listed, and you can tick yes sometimes or no just to see what is or isn't in your life. So why do we have such unhealthy perfectionist tendencies? And I think it's important to see that a lot of people have such perfectionist tendencies to different degrees, in different parts of their lives, but it is something you can see in a lot of people. And so why do we do this? What's the point? Well, at the root is that it is a learned behavior we usually acquired through childhood. So as we are children, we all have this desire for acceptance. We want to be accepted at all costs, and we're very afraid of being rejected. And so we learn, how do we get accepted, or how do we also get love, and how do we get affection, and how do we get attention? And as children, we want to get that love. We want to get that attention because it is also kind of linked to our survival. It's a survival instinct, if you want to say so. And it's also something that is kind of valued in our society. We value good grades, we value good degrees, good universities, good jobs. So this kind of value in our society, there is often kind of the value goes towards achievement. That, I think, exacerbates this tendency towards perfectionism. And you might say, well, what's so bad about that? It drives me to be better. I want to have higher standards. I want to be faster. I want to be better than others. And yes, of course, that drive to be better and to be your best self, that's great. But there is a distinction between that drive to wanting to be your best self and really exceed at what you're doing and doing the best for yourself and for others, and trying to reach ever higher standards. Because what you're doing, and we're going to look at this perfectionist cycle in a second, is you're really bringing more stress, more anxiety, sometimes depression or unhappiness into your life. And this is self-created. Of course, it's maybe a learned behavior, but now you get the choice to see if this behavior or this habit still serves you or not. So to go a little deeper into that perfectionist cycle. So you might have this belief that you're worthy, lovable, and enough when you are perfect, when you reach a certain standard. And that might be different for you than for someone else. And I invite you to reflect on that. What you then engage in is kind of comparison. You look at other people, how they do it. You find yourself in competition. You judge yourself and others. You think about what might they think, and you create whole scenarios in your head. And you kind of also think that once you have achieved a certain standard, then you will feel that feeling of enoughness, because that's what you're kind of looking for. So you start thinking those thoughts of, okay, if I achieve this, then I will feel enough, then it will be good. If I have the perfect relationship, I'll be happy. If I get thinner, if I get this perfect job, or if I move to the perfect apartment, and if I become this perfect person with no failures, no mistake, then something happens. And this might provoke you to take action or not take action. So either you might start, okay, I'm 150% in, and you start exercising crazily. You do this for a week, and after a week, you're totally tired and you give up. And then you say, that's not for me. I'm doing something else. Or you start something, but then you review it over and over again. You check it and you see that there's no mistakes, that it's perfect. Or it makes you to procrastinate and kind of freeze where you are because it's not perfect yet. You are not perfect yet. So who are you to do something? And who are you maybe to start that project, or to be that coach, or to be that yoga teacher? Who are you? And you need to get more degrees, and you need to work more on yourself, and then one day you will be ready. That one day will come. And so that leads to procrastination. So let me give me some examples of my life to illustrate this. So some thoughts I had, for instance, is I have to find the perfect job where I can use all my talents. And I'm a generalist, so I have a lot of talents, but nothing is very extreme. So what should I do? But I need to find that one job. And so I changed a lot of jobs, but funnily enough, I never found that perfect job. Of course, now I kind of am creating my own job, but it always comes with things that don't work or that are challenging. And of course, it comes with mistakes, because that's great. That means learning. I also had this feeling of I need to find the perfect relationship, the perfect guy, and I had this list of things that needed to be ticked off. And don't get me wrong, it's good to know what you want from a relationship to attract that kind of person you want in your life. But there is no perfect, because perfect is also boring. Imagine a relationship with a partner that has everything you want, that is just perfect, that is always super nice, that never confronts you. That would be so boring, right? So for me, that was a work to do, to kind of look at my list and look at, are those really the standards that I want from a relationship? Do they really bring me further? Because I want my relationship to be a space where we can reflect each other and where we can tell each other how to be better and support each other to succeed in our projects. I also, for instance, when it comes to taking action, sometimes when I had a period where I didn't exercise that much, I restarted doing sports, and then it was all in. So it was every day, running every day for an hour until I was tired, and my body, of course, didn't like that. I maybe stopped it again and started something else. And procrastination is definitely something I am working on right now in my business, because I do have those thoughts coming up of, ooh, is this enough? Or maybe I should do another course. Like, this area of personal development and yoga lifestyle, vegan lifestyle is so big. So I do have these moments, and it often comes with comparison, with looking at what other people are doing, and comes with kind of my lower self. So this is definitely something I am working on right now. And it's super interesting. So once you might have results, as I said already before, if you might reach a goal, but then often you might be downplaying it. So for me, for example, I remember when I had my high school diploma and I wanted to get it with honors, and I just missed it. And instead of saying, oh, that's okay, and I kind of wanted it, I was downplaying it. I was saying, oh, in fact, that was not important to me. I didn't want it anyways. And who cares about grades? Or what you might also do when you don't reach your goal or you don't reach that standard, you might also say that, oh, it wasn't that important anyways, and you might set a standard somewhere else. What do all this cycle of you might be taking action or inaction, you might be getting results or not, but what emotions are you provoking of yourself if you always think, okay, if I get there, then, or if I have that perfect relationship, then? Well, I'm guessing it's emotions of feeling inadequate, feeling that you are not enough as you are, feeling that your life is not enough, that your job is not good enough, that your relationship is not good enough, that your partner is doing not enough for you, and that you're feeling unworthy also of praise, unworthy of compliments, and in the end, unworthy of love and attention and connection, which is what we all want in the end. And that really is such a state of lack and scarcity. There's never enough. And as an experience, that really is a source of low self-esteem, very critical self-talk, self-defeating self-talk, really talking yourself down, or like, oh, you did it again, or you can't even do this. And that might lead to worrying about always failing and never getting there, and never reaching that enoughness, and never reaching that standard, and that feeling you associate with reaching that standard. And that leads again back to your beliefs of, oh, you're not worthy, you're not lovable now, but once you reach a certain standard, then you will be. And looking at that cycle and how that impacted my life, I think it's just, look at how much pressure you're putting on yourself. That is so much pressure. And it might be that before somebody else put pressure on yourself, but now you're an adult, so you are putting that pressure on yourself. Nobody else really is. And that is great, because if you're putting on that pressure on yourself, you can also stop doing that. And let me share some steps with you how you can do that. So the first step is always about becoming aware, looking at your perfectionist tendencies. So I invite you to download the PDF and look at those different things, see if they are present in your life, if that's what the thoughts you're thinking, and then asking yourself questions like, is your self-worth tied to achievement? Do you only think you're worthy when you have achieved something? And what does perfection mean to you? What are those standards and what do you define as perfect? Is it the perfect body? Is it the perfect job? Is it the perfect house? Is it the perfect you? What does that mean for you? And what are your standards for perfect in different areas of your life? It might be that in some areas this is much more prone that you have this perfectionist. You're much more prone to have these perfectionist tendencies than in others. And it's also good to ask yourself, what do you do when somebody praises you? What do you do when somebody compliments you and tells you, well done, that was amazing? Can you say, yes, thank you, I know? Or do you say, no, in fact, no, it was not such a big deal because it wasn't even me, it was my whole team, or it came with support or whatever it is in that situation. So those are some questions you can ask yourself to look at. What are your perfectionist tendencies? And the next step is then to gain clarity of the impact those perfectionist tendencies are having on your life. And if you want them to continue being in your life, if they serve you or not. So I've been talking before about this perfectionist cycle, and there's a graph in your handout where you can fill that out and really clearly see what reality you're creating for yourself. And that is so important to really look the facts in the face, to face the facts. And really then asking yourself, is that the life I want to live? Do these tendencies serve me? And are those achievements something I really want deep down from within me? Are they authentically me? Or is this something that I have taken over from maybe your family, from school, from society? And you can kind of think about it like, who is speaking when you think about those perfectionist tendencies and about your standards? Do you hear a different voice from actually that authentic, higher self voice of yours? And then you can, of course, ask yourself, how do you want your life to be? Do you want to, of course, set standards for yourself, live in integrity, but also maybe bring some play into your life? Maybe to see that you are already enough because you are. There's actually nothing to prove. And that's just such a liberation. Because, of course, you can continue in this cycle forever and ever. And chances are you will never reach what you want to reach with it. See, it's a good strategy to bring you further and to improve yourself, but it's not a strategy that makes you happy or that brings you satisfaction in life. And on the note of happiness, I think that's such a good example as well. We can also strive to be happy all the time, and that can also be a perfectionist tendency, especially in these times of personal development, where we think we have to be happy all the time. And that's also pressure we put on ourselves, because that's just not life. Imagine life with just happiness and just positivity. That would be boring. It would not be growing. Life is here to grow, to experience, and everything comes always in with two sides. So if there is happiness, there is also sadness sometimes. If there is light, there's also darkness sometimes. And so your life also has these sides. And it's so easy in our times of social media to just see the happiness and the light and the perfectionism, especially with all these filters and making our pictures look all nice. But that's not real life. And so that is also a perfectionist tendency that you can ask yourself, do you have a standard for yourself that you always need to be happy, that you always need to be grateful? Of course, it's great to strive towards more satisfaction and practice gratitude, because that brings you good feelings. But it won't be there 100% of the time, and that's okay. That's exactly how it should be. And then the third step is taking steps towards more compassion towards yourself first, and then compassion towards others. Because what you're doing with perfectionist tendencies, you have these standards for yourself, but you also apply them to others. And there are 6 things I'm suggesting to you. Of course, there's a lot more you can do, but the first one is really adapting your standards. And there it is important to do it one thing at a time, because here your perfectionist tendency can kick in again. And it's like, okay, I need to get rid of perfectionists now and immediately. Look at one and start with one and see what you can set yourself as a standard that is actually achievable and that you like. And then the second one is really to up-level your self-talks. This is the most important thing. The most important words you hear in your life are the ones you tell yourself. And so if you have a self-defeating self-talk, you create yourself anxiety and you create yourself a more depressed state. And this is something you can control. I know a lot of people tell me that, those thoughts are just coming, they're overwhelming, they're there, I can't do anything anymore. It's a training. So the more you start talking to yourself nicely, with compassion, laughing about yourself, not taking yourself so seriously, the more it will come. And you can always recognize those thoughts. It's like a game. You recognize, oh, here I go again. There's this perfectionist tendency showing up again. And then you can choose differently. And then the third one is really to make praise familiar. Accept those compliments that people are giving you. And praise yourself. Praise yourself for the little things. Because what you want or what you're trying to achieve with perfectionist tendency is a feeling of being enough, being lovable. And so if you start praising yourself for the little things, you already feel enough just the way you are. And that's freedom. I would also invite you to play more, bring playfulness in your life. Perfectionist tendencies often in our head create this, I must do this. This is what I have to do. It gets so serious, and life doesn't have to be serious all the time. It can be fun. It can be playful. So see how you can bring more playfulness into your life. And the next point is seeing mistakes as opportunities for growth. We all fall down. And we also all admire people that have fallen down, and who got up again and who created their life as they wanted it to. And yet when we look at our own mistakes, we often have this tendency of thinking, ooh, that was a failure. I could have done this differently. Take a new approach. Ask yourself, what did I learn out of this? Why did I make this experience? And last but not least, the 6th suggestion I have for you is to go with the flow. I know you might be asking me, what's that? Well, flowing is thinking less, doing more, worrying less, loving more, doing more. Come into action, take action, even if you think you're not ready, even if you think it's not good enough, just do it. And I can promise you that you will experience that your world won't break down. Maybe there will be people judging you, but guess what? People will always judge you. There's always people who will judge you. So why not just do it? And just as I'm speaking, I'm thinking of a 7th point. It's really to bring more vulnerability into your life. To start letting people see the whole of you with all there is, the whole package, that negative side, that shadow side of yours that you're trying to push away. Show it. Show it to people that you trust. And then slowly you can start showing it to more and more people. And that is really ultimate freedom, when you can accept yourself fully and show that to the world. So I'm so excited for this journey for you. And it is a journey. I can't stress that enough. Especially if you have perfectionist tendencies, you want to always solve things immediately, is what I'm guessing. So start questioning your perfectionist tendencies. Start seeing the reality you create in your life. And then start taking different choices, taking responsibility for the reality you create. And the unhappiness or the anxiety that you might create through your perfectionist tendencies. And then really be compassionate with yourself. It just makes life so much nicer. And don't we all want to live a good life? Okay, that was what I wanted to share with you about perfectionist tendencies and steps how you can look at those perfectionist tendencies, seeing if they serve you. Maybe you take different choices. I hope you could take away a lot from it. Don't forget to download the PDF and really enjoy that journey of finding out what you truly want below the standards you set for yourself. I wish you an amazing, beautiful day ahead. Thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing this podcast. If it serves you or if you find it inspiring, that really helps me. Or consider leaving me a comment, a rating. That really helps too. And yes, thank you just so much. I'm really grateful that you are here.